Stephan Kesting from grapplearts.com, and what this is part 1 of 4 of the Quick Start Guide to the Single Leg X Guard. This is portions of the subsequent instructional taken out, put together, because I think they're the most important parts of the instructional that will give you the quickest results. So what you're going to get is 4 things. You're going to get an introduction to the basic single leg X guard position. You're not going to get every single variation, you're not going to get every single nuance, but you're going to get an overall basic introduction to what you should be doing with your legs, what you should be doing with your arms. The next thing you're going to be getting is the core drill. The core drill for the single leg X guard. This is a really important series of movements. It's 3 movements done on 2 sides that will teach you the basics of defending the single leg X guard, off balancing from the single leg X guard, and switching to other forms of guard from the single leg X guard. So the core drill, super important. We're going to refer to it again and again and again as you go deeper into the material. Finally, we're going to do the 2 most important sweeps from the single leg X guard, the basic twist sweep and the basic technical stand up from X guard. So once you have those 4 things, once you have the basic position, the core drill, the twist sweep, and the technical stand up from X guard, you'll have sort of a functioning single leg X guard. I want to give you those results as fast as possible. Let's break the basic single leg X guard down into 2 components. What you're doing with your legs and your hips, and what you're doing with your arms. Let's start with the legs and the hips first. So I'm going to take one of Mo's legs, and I'm going to clamp my legs around it. So I've got the outside leg, and I've got the inside leg. That's pretty self-explanatory. Notice how my hips are up. This is almost never the right way to do the single leg X guard. You see how my hips are on the ground? My heel is about to pop off. It doesn't take very much, just push it to pop it off. If my hips are up and I can clamp my legs together, he can still get that foot off. And we've got an entire section on how to deal with it. But hopefully it doesn't feel as easy to pull it off. So my hips are up. This is a very common mistake that people make. I want to clamp my legs together. Like, he can feel the difference. If I'm here, there's no clamping. You can move your leg back and forth a little bit. If I clamp my legs, basically doing the Jane Fonda inner thigh master machine thing on his leg, I'm glued to his leg. I'm going to clamp, I'm going to lift my hips, and I'm going to be heavy. So I'm not just pushing up, I'm going to be pulling down here with my heel, being heavy. So if he moves around, I would use my hands, but I'm going to move with him. I'm not just going to fall off. This foot is flexed. It's not like this. Somebody once described this as ballerina feet, and this is jiu-jitsu feet. I think it's a great analogy. We're going to go with jiu-jitsu feet. This foot here can be in different places. It can be right in the middle, be clamped on the thigh. Sometimes it even goes onto this thigh. For today, for the basic position, straight up the middle, here we go. Let's talk about something that's super important, both in working the single leg X guard and not getting disqualified at your next tournament. And that's the idea of reaping. Jiu-jitsu rules don't allow me to bring my foot across the center line. If I start bringing my foot across like this, it starts potentially hurting Mo's knee. I don't really think it does, but those are the rules, so we're going to follow the rules. So I have to keep this foot on my hip. Back before referees became more savvy to this kind of thing, one of the counters for Mo was to take this foot, shove it across his belly, and then scream in pain. And I would get disqualified. I think most referees are wise to this now, but you want to keep this foot on the hip here. Don't bring it to the middle. In a submission grappling, MMA, self-defense context, yes, you can totally start bringing this across. Do you see how that brings Mo's heel up here? This gives me access to the heel hook, arguably the most devastating leg lock, or one of the most devastating leg locks. And I can also bring the guy down that way, but I don't want to play here. For one thing, he can put his weight on me and punch me, and I can't push him away anymore because I'm pushing him away with the outside of my knee. Whereas this foot's on the hip here, and I have to push him away for whatever reason, as he's coming close. I can push. I can do a stomp. So do not bring the foot across center line. Good basic rule. The more advanced, the more nuanced rule is don't bring the foot across center line to reap unless you're in a submission grappling context that allows reaping, or in a self-defense or an MMA situation, you're actually going for the heel hook. I would suggest you first stabilize it with a single leg X position and then switch to the reap as a deliberate motion as opposed to making that go-to your initial movement. You want to be able to control the distance, and that's done with the bottom of the foot, not by bringing the foot across. So we just covered what you do with your legs and your hips. Let's cover what you do with the arms. There are a few more variations here, and I'm going to cover the 3 main variations. That's mostly what we're going to be using in today's instructional. Then there are a few other fun ones that I'm putting in there just for completeness. If Mo could stand up, please, and just come around this way. So, here I am. I swing my hips up, my legs up. I'm clamped, I'm heavy. What do I do with my arms? Well, the first variation is a full ankle lock grip here. It's coming completely around the leg. Sometimes I even like gripping the far lapel. This is pretty tight. This can take a while to sink, and it also has a few little disadvantages that we'll go into, but this is a very good position. Lots of people play their X guard here with a lapel grip, or just here with a fist, and their fist on their stomach. So that's the overhook grip or the ankle lock grip. Very powerful. Does take a few extra seconds to weasel that arm into place. Also, as you'll see later, because Mo's heel isn't as controlled, he can turn his heel out slightly. Exactly. That can make a big difference for some sweeps. So to counter that, the next version is the thigh clamp, where I take this arm, I bring the elbow right against the heel, and I grab my own hamstring here. This allows me to cage his heel from turning out. Now, it doesn't have quite as much control with regards to him pulling it out, but it does prevent that heel from flaring. You see Marcelo Garcia do this a lot, although you also see him do the overhook. The other advantage of here, see I'm grabbing the back of my hamstring, is if he starts driving in on me, I can switch this to being here. I'm creating a frame between the floor and my knee with my own forearm. So it helps take some of the weight off, as opposed to being here with him putting his weight on me with his knee. I can switch from here to here quickly. The third variation you use mostly when your opponent is down on one knee. So we're down on the knee here, and we're trying to figure out what to do. I can still use the overhook or the ankle lock. I can still use the thigh clamp, but here I can also use this, kind of a half underhook. I might control the material if I have this. This is beginning to look awfully much like an X guard. All I have to do really is put this hook in here, and I'm in the X guard. But you can sometimes play with this position as well. So it's the underhook, the thigh clamp, or the overhook. Those are your main 3 positions, and we'll talk about switching back and forth between them a little bit later in the instructional.